Who am I speaking with?
Mary Jean Collins. I'm the National Political Director at People for the American Way.
What's People for the American Way involved in right now?
People for the American Way is involved in a number of campaigns, one around the courts, trying to prevent George Bush from putting even more right-wing justices or judges on the courts, on the federal courts. We're involved in election protection and election administration reform. We're trying to get the Deceptive Practices Bill, which is sponsored by Senator Obama, through to try to prevent Republicans and right-wingers from stealing votes at the elections next year. We have a political action committee called People for the American Way Voters Alliance, which is a federal PAC. We have a 527 called PFAW Action Fund. We're beginning to raise money for candidates for the federal races in 2008.
Let me ask you about something you just said. You want to prevent Republicans from stealing elections. Do you have some reason to think that that's what they want to do?
Well, there's a considerable evidence since 2000 and the Bush-Gore election. There was considerable intimidation tactics used against particularly African American voters, and in 2004 and 2006 against Latino voters, to try to prevent people who are legitimately coming to the polls to express their vote from actually having the opportunity to do so, which is why we encouraged Senator Obama to introduce the Deceptive Practices Bill and to try to make sure that there is fair voting practices for every citizen who is eligible to vote to be able to do so.
But looking forward, do you have reason to think that this is something that is organized at the level of the Republican Party?
Well, the Republican Party in some of the states, some of the instances have actually been traced back to the Republican Party, and I don't know whether you were following the issue in 2000. I certainly was in Miami, where Republican staff came out of the congressional offices to try to shut down the voting in 2000 to prevent who would have been Vice President Gore from actually getting the votes in Florida. I will never forget that, and I will never forget that, in fact, some of these people came from offices in Washington to try to intimidate local election officials. So, you know, fair warned is fair warned, and so everything we're doing is to try to make sure that voters who are eligible to vote are encouraged to vote and given the opportunity to do so. So I want a preventive strategy. I don't know what the Republicans are planning this year. I do know what has happened in some cases in years past, and I want to prevent that from happening again.